It's awful for anybody to call Hebrews 7 New Testament tithing. Somebody wrote a book on New Testament tithing. I couldn't stop laughing, because I know he's going to twist scriptures, force scriptures out of context, form contexts that don't exist to be able to establish New Testament tithing. There's no such thing as New Testament tithing. It does not exist anywhere in the Bible. Okay, so that's ridiculous to say that. Hebrews chapter 7 verse 1 to 17 was about Abraham and Melchizedek in relationship, to Aaron, trying to establish the superiority of the priesthood of Christ over the priesthood of Aaron. In fact, Hebrews 7 lets us see clearly that the fact Abraham gave a tithe to Melchizedek and Aaron received tithe while in the loins of Abraham, it shows you the superiority of Melchizedek over Aaron and Levi. That's the point that Hebrews 7 was establishing. So in that context, superiority has to do with authority. That means that tithe mentioned in Hebrews chapter 7 was to show honor and worship and respect. It wasn't a teaching, come and give tithe because Abraham did it. Now, that's not what it was talking about. Rather, it was to show us the superiority of the priesthood of Melchizedek over the Levitical priesthood. All right, now Jesus mentioned tithe in Luke chapter 18 verse 11. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself, God, I thank thee that I'm not as other men are, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even as this publican. 12. I fast twice in the week. I give tithes of all that I possess. 13. And the publican standing afar off will not lift up so much as his eyes unto heaven, but smote upon his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. Hilasmos. I tell you, this man went down to his house justified. So the other man, even with all his tithe and fasting, did not get acceptance before God. But this man who came humbly on the basis of the substitutionary sacrifice of Christ was accepted. So Jesus, whenever he talked about tithe, mentioned it like an indictment, like a rebuke on the people, because they were relying on their tithe as if their tithe had the audacity to get God's attention for them, which is what the legalists do. Actually, the legalists are dependent on their works. I fast, I pray, I give. There's no way God will not bless me. You are a Pharisee. That's not the reason why God blesses you. What about unbelievers who don't fast and they don't pray and they have children and they have money and they have wives? Not even wives. And they have houses and they have cars and they don't tithe, they don't pray, yet they have all the things that you call blessing. How do you explain that? Two people, an unbeliever and a believer who pays tithe and fast and pray, applies for job and the job is given to the unbeliever who did not pray. How do you explain that? If it was on the basis of your tithing and all of that, that God blesses you, that theology is square. It has no stand. It's lopsided. And it does not pass the test of sound doctrine. So God doesn't bless you because you did something. He blessed you in Christ before you knew what to do. So whatever you do now is in response to what God has done. You are not doing it to get, you are just doing it in honor of what he has done.